Hey guys, Chris from American Warrior Forge here. It is cold this morning, so we're going to get to this intro and get the forge lit because I'm freezing. But today I'm going to show you how to make a simple hairpin. I'm going to forge it out of mild steel. I'm going to use 1/4 inch round bar. First thing we're going to do is square that up because I like to put a twist in the middle. So we're going to square it up first so that we've got sharp corners or sharpish corners so that our twist will show nicely. Then we're going to draw a taper just like we talked about in my previous videos on drawing a taper using modeling clay. So I'm going to show you how that works with hot steel now. And then once I've got that done, I'll put the twist in it. And then I like to finish it off with drawing a taper on the opposite end and then put it in a little decorative curl. And so I'll walk you guys through that whole process and I'll show you what this is going to look like before we get started so you know what we're going to be making. And then we'll get going. All right, so thanks guys. Let's go light the forge. So here we've got our 1/4 inch mild steel. I'm starting with about 5 inches, and that should give me plenty by the time I draw out my 2 tapers and then curl to one end that it'll be long enough for a simple hairpin. So here we're going to start by squaring up the bar because we're using mild steel that's already rounded. So to square it up, we're simply just going to use the face of the hammer against the face of the anvil. Not against the face of the anvil, but we're going to use the face of the hammer with the work sitting on the face of the anvil. Straight downward blows up and down the bar. That will flatten out one side. We'll rotate it 90 degrees, do the same thing, and then just kind of planish it and straighten things up, and that'll give us our square bar. Alright, so as you can see here, our round bar is now square, so that means I can move on to drawing a taper on one side, but the squareness of the shoulders are already there, so that's been established, so it'll be ready for the twist when we get to that stage. Okay, so now we're going to draw our taper, and if you watch the video on drawing a taper with modeling clay, it's going to be the same process that we use here. So I'm going to hold the work to the far edge of the anvil, but not over the anvil. I'm going to tip it up at an angle, and then I'm going to deliver blows at an angle as well, downward onto the work, and I'm going to rotate the work 90 degrees in between each blow. And you'll see that the end will start to stretch out and taper. It'll also heat up because of the friction, so you can actually work that tip just a little bit longer. So now that I've got the taper drawn out to about the length I want, I'm just going to do some light blows to planish and straighten, and then I'm going to knock off the corners just at the tip so that the taper is a little bit more rounded, and then it squares up where I'm going to start my twist. Now, like any steel, you don't want to be wailing on this thing when it gets too cold. Even though in the video it looks like it's pretty low temperature right now, that's partly because of the lighting for the video. When I started knocking off the corners, it was really still in that like dull red stage if I was to turn off the lights. So again, I'm just doing some planishing and straightening here. Okay, so now this is when I do my twist. I lock it in the vise just barely at the top of where the rounded taper stops. And then I like to do an alternating twist or reverse twist in my hairpins. And so you're gonna see I'm gonna use a blowtorch here, and I'm going to try to control or isolate the heat and twist with the wrench just above where I want the twist to go. And I'm gonna go back and forth
on the twisting direction to get the desired effect that I use in my hairpins. Once the twist is done, I'm just going to use a wire brush to knock off any scale that has popped up in the middle of that twist, clean that up a little bit, and then we'll get it back in the forge to heat up the other end to start drawing the taper for the curl. Alright, so I put the other end, the side that I was holding in my tongs, into the forge first. I've switched tongs now because the 1/4 inch bolt jaws I was using for the bar stock isn't going to hold the taper very well. So I'm just using some generic kind of flat wolf jaw type tongs now, holding the taper that we established before. First step now is to square up that other just a little end, and then we'll start drawing the taper the same way we did at the beginning of the video. One key point to make here is that I'm making sure to hold my twist off of the anvil. That's why I'm tapering it and squaring it a little bit more towards the center, because I don't want to accidentally hit the twist or have the twist bump up against the anvil face and flatten off the sharper corners I have in that twist. As you can see here, work got away from me a little bit. Rather than letting it flop off, I just hold it down with the hammer for a second, get a better grip established with those tongs. Those are just the ones that I have that seem to work the best for this. There's probably a better pair that I could make, but this is typically what I use just because I hate making tongs. So I lost a little bit of heat when I was readjusting, so got it back in the forge, heated it up again. I'm just going to finish refining that taper, knock off the corners just like we did before, and then we'll heat it up again for the curl. Alright, so now we're at the point where we're going to curl the top end of the hairpin. I like to start it over the horn of the anvil just so I don't put any unsightly marks. But you could also do this over the far edge of the anvil. It's totally your preference, depends on how sharp the corners of your anvil are. I just prefer to start it over the horn and then curl it from there. So as you can see, I just used some kind of glancing downward blows over the edge of the horn of the anvil. That starts the bend in the piece of work, and then I'm going to flip it upside down and hammer it back onto itself, similar to upsetting, and then hammer that curl downward to get that curl started. I'm then going to clean it off, get any scale off before I continue that curl so none gets trapped in it. So now that we have the curl started, I heated it up again. I'm going to lay it on the anvil with the curl facing upward, and just like upsetting, we're going to knock it back into itself to bend that around and continue that curl. Now, I could do this in one heat. For the video, I took my time to make sure that I was showing everything appropriately, but also I just like to take my time, even if it's a couple of heats. It doesn't take long for the material to heat back up as thin as it's gotten now with that taper. I like to take my time so I can make sure that everything is nice and neat and that I don't get any scale trapped in it. And then on my hairpins in particular, once I've got that curl established, I like to take it back to the horn with the curl facing upward and just knock it back a little bit and kind of bend it backwards so that everything is a little bit more in line and it just gives it a little bit more dimension. Okay, so now we need to straighten it. it's gotten a little wonky from the forging with the twist and putting the curl in it and things. And so to do that without messing up my twist, we're going to use a rawhide mallet, or you can use a wooden mallet and a piece of wood. That's going to allow your steel to bend and to be straightened without marring your work and marring those twists that you've put in. And it really doesn't have to be at a very high heat to straighten, just a little bit of heat. If it starts to smoke too much or flame up, it's probably still just a little hot. Just take it off, give it a second, and then go ahead and continue straightening. And then once you straighten, just go ahead and hit it with a wire brush again and get any scale or little bits of wood that may have burned onto the work wiped off. I like to straighten it a couple different directions and then check for straightness by looking down the piece of work from a few different angles just to make sure everything's in line. And there you have it. That is the end product, the forged hairpin. I do a little cleanup afterwards. Usually I let it cool down, hit it with a wire wheel, and then you can leave it like that, put a blacksmith's finish on it with linseed oil or something of that nature. I typically will heat temper it to give it some color, and then I'll brass brush the two ends by heating them up to just about a dull red or slightly under, and then brush them with a brass bristle brush afterwards, and then I spray it with a clear coat for protection. But there's multiple ways you can finish it. Any steel finish will do. That's just my preferred method. Alright guys, so thanks for watching this video. Again, I'm a new channel, so like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit me up with questions if you have any. I'd love to help out. The whole point of this channel is just to share the knowledge and share the craft and hopefully get more people involved. So if you like the video, like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Thanks guys.